As the Eagles get ready for week 1 of training camp, the front office might be prepping one more move, according to new reports. Plus, Saquon Barkley fires back at the Giants yet again. Oh, we got even more insight into the Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts drama, although the revelations just have me shaking my head. Finally, the latest on Cindy Brown and James Bradberry. It's training camp week. Get pumped. I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show. Now, it wouldn't be the start of Eagles training camp without some fresh internal drama, rumors of potential signings, and yes, Saquon Barkley trolling the Giants yet again. But before we can cover the actual drama, let's start with the camp news you need to know as of today. Starting, of course, with the full practice time and dates. We have the schedule now, Wednesday 10 a.m., that's day 1, you guys knew that. Although Thursday will also be a practice, Friday will be a walkthrough, and then another practice to follow on Saturday. Each day will feature both player and coach press conferences, of course, before and after practice, with the expectation of the pads going on potentially late next week. Now, Cindy Brown will begin training camp on the physically unable to perform list, or PUP list, according to Jimmy Kemsky, meaning he will be able to work out off to the side, not actually during drills and on the football field, and continue to rehab that torn ACL, which I think is moving along rather well. Brown's the only one on the PUP list, meaning everybody else sitting in Eagles training camp is 100% healthy and should be out there ready to go. Although I am going to keep my eye on James Bradberry, especially the first couple of days. Not really if he's going to report or not. He's going to be there because the fines are just incredibly high during day-by-day process, so he can't really hold it out. But my question is, one, is he healthy following the OTA kind of question mark? Will he practice? If he does, is he a safety? Is he a cornerback? I'm very curious to see what Bradberry's going to do the next couple of days, which you'll hear about here on my show. Be sure to hit that sub button, turn on the notification bell. This is your one-stop shop, best channel for all things happening with the Philadelphia Eagles over training camp. Also, the winners of the not one, but 2 Nike t-shirts, the Hurts and the A.J. Brown one from last week's videos. Well, drumroll please, they're going to be Meech6848, who won the Hurts t-shirt after the first person didn't contact me, and then the No Hollywood ending with the Brown t-shirt. So, guys, go down below. My description box has all the details, the email you need to send me, what needs to be in there, including the t-shirt size. It's all down below. Send them to me. That way I can actually give you guys the t-shirts. Now, the other big question I have starting tomorrow is, will Howie Roseman make any pre-camp moves to not only add depth to the roster, but fill some much-needed spots? Now, I'm not talking about any sort of big, giant, crazy move. I think PFN's Anthony DeBona made a really good point this morning, saying, quote, last season, the Eagles reported to training camp on July 25th. The team's first practice was July 26th. The Eagles signed Dennis Kelly on the 25th and Deon Cain on the 26th. Therefore, I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles make a signing or 2 in the coming days. Now, again, those aren't major splashes. I mean, Dennis Kelly, Deon Cain, neither of them actually made the roster, but still, it was a move right before training camp to shore up some depth that they probably are going to do again. Although for fun, if you wanted to know 2 big names that are actually being kind of reported, thrown out in the ether as potential signings the next couple of days, well, I have those too. Starting with, of course, Justin Simmons. Now, don't go away. I know you guys are tired of hearing about Justin Simmons. I mean, everyone else talks about Justin Simmons every single day on their shows, which is why he's not in the thumbnail or the title of this video. I'm not trying to clickbait you guys into Justin Simmons, but still, the sometimes kind of, I guess right every now and then, ML Football did tweet out just the other day, quote, the Eagles do have interest in signing All-Pro DB Justin Simmons, league sources tell ML Football. Roseman and company had talks with Eddie Jackson's camp as they continue to look for safety help, but are not willing to pay top dollar at the moment in the current market. Now, again, that's not Adam Schefter. Take it with the biggest grain of salt you've ever seen. But the Eddie Jackson signing a couple of days ago with the Ravens just before camp does mean that Simmons should be the next deal to happen. Now, the other big move that we at least have to mention today is that Steelers legendary defensive tackle Cameron Heyward is reportedly on the trade block. And according to Bleacher Report, the Philadelphia Eagles, what a surprise, were listed as a top trade candidate spot, at least a potential landing spot for the big DT. Now, Heyward is one of the most decorated tackles really in Steeler history. With the Eagles losing Fletcher Cox, naturally he could be a fit, veteran help, bring in to go ahead and mentor the younger players while also producing on his own. The problem is Bleacher Report's Christopher Knox, the guy who reported all of this, said the asking price for Heyward is a 2025 second and a 2026 fourth-round draft pick, which for a 26-year-old defensive tackle, if you ask me, is way too much, especially since he missed a significant amount of games in 2023 with an injury and only had 2 sacks. Now, Knox does counter this point by at least making the argument that Heyward's impact potential is too great to leave him off of this list. The 6-time Pro Bowler did battle a significant groin injury last season, but produced 163 tackles, 20.5 sacks over the past 2 seasons. So sure, he makes sense, and as usual, Philadelphia is linked to every single trade candidate under the sun. I get the idea here, bring in a veteran, bring in somebody who can mentor the young defensive line. Still though, a second-round draft pick is a lot if you're 36 years old. Personally, I don't think it happens, but again, start of training camp and anything can happen, so stay tuned, I'll cover it if it does. Now, moving over to the drama I mentioned earlier, by now you've probably seen the viral clips from the Giants' offseason Hard Knocks TV show, which has been pretty good, honestly, in which they detail New York Giants GM Joe Schoen's attempt to keep Saquon in the Big Apple, keep being in quotation marks, as some Giant fans clearly thought the HBO teaser and the clip showed that New York offered Saquon the same money that Philadelphia did, until the most recent episode proved the Giants were never really going to match Philadelphia's offer, to the point that now we have Saquon Barkley sitting down yesterday with the Athletic's Dan Rossini for a detailed tell-all interview, and this 22-second clip kind of explains it all.
It was over after that phone call, in my opinion.
As soon as he said to go hit the market,
I never, in my heart, truly believed that they were going to match it, or they only wanted me for a lower price. So, no matter what, I probably wasn't going to go back.
Again, 22 seconds. That's about as quick of a summary as you can possibly get. Essentially, Saquon knew he wasn't going to get a strong offer from the Giants. The Giants proved that his hunch was right because they didn't offer him really anything. Hence, Barkley found a better deal with the G-Men's biggest division rival, and of course, now the rest is history. Oh, and on top of things, Barkley seems pretty darn pumped for his first year in Philadelphia, as he dropped a brand new hype video on his social media channels just the other day, featuring not only the Eagle star working out this offseason, rocking the Philly gear, lifting weights, and honestly, at least in my opinion, he looks the happiest and maybe the best shape he's been in his entire career. I think Saquon's going to go off. I've said that for weeks and weeks and weeks here on the channel. How many touchdowns do you have for Saquon Barkley this season? Let me know down below. Now, Barkley isn't the only one who's gotten some last-minute workouts before camp. We got some fresh footage yesterday of Jalen Hurts training with Dallas Goedert, Johnny Wilson, and others at his former high school late last week. He's done this multiple times this offseason. This was from a couple of days ago. Paired that with Landon Dickerson hosting, this looks fun, a slip-and-slide party with a bunch of his Eagle teammates before camp, and clearly the Birds have officially gotten their final bits of fun and workouts in before the next few weeks of training camp, which are a lot harder than a slip-and-slide. Now, Diana Rossini wasn't done stirring the Eagle pot over the weekend. She kind of has a brand new report on her podcast detailing exactly what went wrong at Philadelphia. More specifically, stop me if you heard this, the rip between Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts.
it's a relationship that's a work in progress, right? So last year, there was some disconnect, right, between them in their personalities.
Were they not on the same page the entire year? Because I want to stop you, because that's what you just said is important to the conversation, because they started 10-1. Everything was all rosy. You never heard about their relationship. All of a sudden, they finished really, really bad.
Those 10 wins were a grind from what I was told. Every win felt like a really big feat for them because of the challenges that they were facing in terms of what they were doing on offense. It was Nick Sirianni's show.
100%.
It was all Nick.
Yep.
Play call, everything you saw on that field was Sirianni.
Now, NFL National Twitter jumped on this Eagle dysfunction news a lot, but us diehard fans, we're pretty quick to point out that this is all really old news. Like, we've known this for a long time. I mean, John McMullen was quick to point out on his Twitter account, quote, "To be fair, Nick Sirianni tried to tell people this a million times. It was always his offense. Glad some are finally believing it at least. Hashtag Eagles." Which, of course, echoed by the BGN report a couple of months ago at this point that stated, quote, "According to a few people in Philadelphia, while Johnson was the OC, it was 100% Sirianni's offense you were watching last season. And Sirianni wanted to do it his way. This meant a conservative, run-first approach, especially when they got near the red zone. And last year, opposing defenses were ready for it. Johnson wasn't calling plays. He was solely focused on giving Sirianni the offense that Sirianni wanted to run." Again, that was posted months ago on BGN's website from an inside source, and so Rossini's revelations over the weekend, they're really, again, nothing new. I think the big issue that most Birds are going to have with all this is the continued question of why Nick Sirianni was allowed to stay in if it was his offense that looked that horrific last season. And while yes, I was one of the many people calling for Nick Sirianni to go ahead and be fired, at this point, I do think Jeffrey Lurie's words a couple of weeks ago that really were basically backing Nick Sirianni and saying how much he believes in him as a head coach have to be taken at face value. It's got to actually mean something. Plus, it's not like Nick Sirianni wasn't punished for what happened last season, as the Birds did strip him of basically all offensive duties and gave that job over to Kellen Moore, who's going to be basically in charge of the entire Eagle offense. Plus, they did bring in a veteran, no-nonsense former head coach to kind of run the defense in Vic Fangio, which I think is going to kind of double as another kind of head coaching voice inside the Eagles organization to make sure Nick Sirianni stays in check. And while no, that's not ideal, and we talked about this ad nauseum over the offseason, you'd like to have a head coach who was an adult, didn't need someone to babysit him, didn't need someone to run his offense for him. Still, though, at this point, what really can we do? I guess you can complain about Nick Sirianni all training camp long, or you can just kind of put the past behind, hope that Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio are the right guys around him, and get excited for an Eagles football team that is absolutely stacked. And hey, Nick Sirianni, why can't he have learned from his mistakes this offseason and go back to being a really good overall head coach like he was in 2022? Which I think was echoed really well by Eagles legend Merrill Reese on my show just a couple of days ago in this clip.
And I think that Nick Sirianni is a bright coach. He's an enthusiastic coach. He communicates very well. See, I think communication is one of the biggest parts of coaching, the ability to get through to people, to have people skills. And I think he has that. And coaches have to surround themselves with the best possible assistants. I remember Dick Vermeil, a lot of things about Dick Vermeil, but one of the things Dick Vermeil said was a coach has to surround himself with assistants good enough to take his job. And I think that's important. And I'm not criticizing anybody in particular, but I think that by bringing in Kellen Moore and adding Vic Fangio, I think you're going to give Nick Sirianni the support that he needs. But I think he's a bright young coach.
Either way, I think it's fair that all Eagle fans put the Nick Sirianni drama to bed, at least for now. Now, if we get to the actual NFL season, and Nick Sirianni is the reason the Eagles continue to lose football games, he's going to get fired. That's not even a debate. It will happen. But right now, as I just mentioned, the Eagles have a roster that is built to win a Super Bowl. Nick Sirianni has coached a Super Bowl caliber roster a couple of years ago. I'm fine with giving him the benefit of the doubt until he proves us wrong yet again. For now, training camp starts tomorrow. Can we at least be a little bit excited about that? Now again, training camp, they report tomorrow. They start on Wednesday. We're going to have press conferences and practice footage and everything you need right here on this channel. We're 55,000 subs. I bet we can get 60,000 subs by the end of the third preseason game. Hit that sub button, hit the notification bell, and give the show a thumbs up. I'm pumped to cover the birds for you guys this offseason. I'm Thomas Mott. This has been the Thomas Mott Show.